All right, let's jump right into this explainer on Sonam Wangchuk. We're looking at a brilliant polymath whose life journey takes us all the way from the freezing deserts of Ladakh to the intense heat of national political activism. He started out as an engineer and educator tackling some of the toughest environments on Earth, only to collide head-on with the complexities of modern governance.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with his work as an educational reformer, then look at engineering Himalayan solutions, his push for autonomy, and finally, his clashes, detention, and release.
Part 1, The Educational Reformer, Reimagining Learning in Ladakh.
So, Wangchuk's origin story actually starts with a pretty traumatic childhood experience. You see, he wasn't even enrolled in a formal school until he was 9, just learning the basics in his mother tongue at home. But when he was sent off to school in Srinagar, he was addressed in an alien language. Unable to respond, he was just mistaken for being stupid. He actually calls it the darkest part of his life. To counter this kind of systemic alienation, he later built institutions like SECMOL and HIAL, which emphasize mother tongue basics and practical skills built specifically for the mountain environment.
He fundamentally believed local students were being totally failed by the system. When he founded SECMOL back in 1988, he really didn't mince words. He flat out called the students victims of an alien education system foisted on Ladakh. But he didn't just complain about it. He completely rewrote the rules of mountain education.
Moving on to Part 2, Engineering Himalayan Solutions, Surviving the Extremes.
Now, what's really fascinating is how his educational campuses basically morphed into testing grounds for extreme climate engineering. Because he faced a massive practical challenge. How do you actually farm in a frozen desert? During those crucial planting months of April and May, Ladakh faces severe water scarcity, long before the natural glacial meltwaters actually start flowing.
Well, Wangchuk looked at the freezing winter temperatures and didn't see a hurdle, he saw a tool. He figured out a way to freeze and store unused winter stream water in these massive architectural cones called Ice Stupas. These artificial glaciers act as frozen reservoirs, perfectly timing their melt with the exact moment farmers need water in late spring. It's honestly like a giant puzzle coming together.
And to truly grasp the stakes here, we have to look at the environment. Winter temperatures plummet to a brutal minus 30 degrees Celsius. That is incredibly cold. Wangchuk countered this extreme freeze by designing passive solar mud buildings at his campus. Using rammed earth, specific orientation, and thermal mass, these structures keep students warm without burning a single drop of fossil fuel.
And this wasn't just some abstract theory. To put this into perspective, just a single 2-story Ice Stupa prototype built in 2014 successfully stored 150,000 liters of water. It was an absolute game changer, turning wasted winter runoff into a life-giving spring resource for local farmers.
Let's see how these exact same passive solar principles translated into military applications. In 2021, knowing that 50,000 Indian soldiers were stationed in harsh, high-altitude climates, Wangchuk developed mobile solar-powered tents. By trapping heat energy during the day to keep the tent warm at night, he provided a highly sustainable, life-saving solution for the troops. His knack for grounding abstract engineering into practical, life-saving solutions earned him immense validation on the global stage. We're talking the prestigious Ramon Magsaysay Award, the Rolex Award for Enterprise, and top international honors for sustainable architecture. He was literally a globally celebrated hero of innovation.
Which brings us to Part 3, the push for autonomy, fighting for the fragile ecosystem.
As his influence skyrocketed, Wangchuk realized something absolutely crucial. Engineering alone just wasn't going to save Ladakh's fragile ecosystem. He shifted his focus from the drafting table to the streets, becoming a fierce advocate for local autonomy. His core demand was crystal clear. He wanted constitutional protection for the Union territory of Ladakh under the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution to safeguard it from outside industrial and mining lobbies.
And that leads right into Part 4, Clashes, Detention, and Release, a timeline of activism.
This is where things get highly turbulent. His grassroots activism quickly escalated into direct confrontation with state authorities. If you look at the timeline over just a few years, his methods steadily escalated. From an attempted fast at the Kardungla Pass in 2023 to a 21-day climate fast in 2024, all the way to leading a long march to Delhi. This friction ultimately plunged him into severe legal crackdowns and mass arrests in late 2025.
At this point, the situation became incredibly polarized, and we can clearly see two entirely different narratives emerging here. On one hand, the Home Ministry accused him of inciting the September 2025 Leah protests, where a BJP office was torched. They detained him under the National Security Act, cited Pakistani links, and revoked his institution's foreign funding licenses. On the flip side, Wangchuk firmly denied inciting any violence, stating the protests simply reflected deep public frustration. He defended his Pakistan visit as part of an official UN event, challenged his detention through a Supreme Court habeas corpus petition, and accused the Home Ministry of making false claims to deliberately cripple his schools.
Following immense legal battles, intense public scrutiny, and his wife's Supreme Court petitions, Wangchuk was finally released on March 14, 2026, after 170 days in detention. The Ministry of Home Affairs officially revoked his NSA status. But, well, if they thought detention would stop him, they were definitely wrong. By July, he was right back in New Delhi supporting student protests. He even cheekily embraced the title of an honorary cockroach, proving he was practically impossible to squash. So, what does this all mean? Look, Sonam Wangchuk literally used the brutal cold to build glaciers and the sun to build schools. He solved physical problems that honestly seemed completely impossible. But when he took that exact same problem-solving energy and applied it to political and constitutional issues, he collided head-on with the power of the state. It really leaves us with a compelling question to chew on. When the systems we try to fix aggressively push back, how does society distinguish between a visionary innovator and a political provocateur?